how to make a short film in no budget, or if I have to rephrase that to something much more realistic, then I would rather ask, how do you make a short film within limited budget having limited resources? That's exactly what we will discuss on this video today. So make sure to watch the video till the end. Hello guys, my name is Shubhadeep Mondal. I'm an independent filmmaker, and as we all know, as independent filmmakers, we have to wear different shoes all at the same time. So by the virtue of being an independent filmmaker myself, I have been fortunate enough to write, produce, direct and edit quite a few short films in the past few years. You can check out most of my recent short films on this channel, the most popular being Unbelievable. No pun intended. That is actually the name of the short film, which is the first part from a series of 2 short films that I made back in 2015, which is rightfully named Passion Series, Audition being the second part. Both the films deal with a common theme, which is passion, and thus the name Passion Series. I'll request you to watch those short films after watching this video. I'd also love to know your feedback as well. So make sure to leave your reviews of the films on the comment section of the respective videos. I'll link to the short films on the video description below. And I'd also like to let you know that my upcoming psychological thriller short film Paranoia is also going to be released in the upcoming months on this channel as well. This is by far my most ambitious project, and I can't control my excitement to share it with you. So if you are new here, please consider subscribing by clicking on the big red subscribe button down there and all the bells and whistles. You know the drill. In my opinion, Chirstopher Nolan's earlier films like Following or Memento are the perfect examples of how to make films in very low budget and make them work. He still uses a lot of storytelling techniques he used on his first few feature films even today, while making huge blockbusters where budget is not a constraint. I'll advise anyone trying to make their first film to watch and study all his and other great directors' earlier works when they weren't famous and they also did not have the money to make their film happen. Just by watching and studying those films, you will learn so much. Just make sure to watch with the intention of learning. I've learned so much simply by watching the earlier films of some of the extraordinary directors like Alejandro Iñárritu, Darren Aronofsky, or even directors like James Wan. The purpose of this video is neither about discussing the directing approaches of Chirstopher Nolan, not to make it some kind of an analysis of Chirstopher Nolan films in any way. Rather, I'm more interested in sharing my own interpretations and knowledge and what I have learned by watching and analyzing his works and through my experiences of making short films as well. So getting all those things out of the way, let's get started with our topic. The whole filmmaking process can be divided into a few parts, but today in this video, I'll talk about the script writing process only. In later videos, we will dive deep into the other parts as well. So here, the much more appropriate question to ask would be how to make a short film with very little money and very limited resources and make it look like it's not. There are 2 aspects to that question. One is the technical aspect. That means how do you make your film look good or cinematic or whatever. This can be achieved with good cinematography, which includes your camera works, lighting, production design, makeup, costumes, etc., which do not necessarily have to cost you a lot. You just need to at least consider these things while making the film, and with a few smart or DIY techniques, you can get these things done in a very limited budget. We will talk about these techniques in detail later on. The second aspect to that question is how do you actually make a good film? That involves your creative side or the artistic side, which includes your actual story. Is it any good? Is it worth telling? Your storytelling techniques, story structure, dialogues, your direction, the performance of the actors and all. None of this costs anything at all in terms of money, but requires a hell lot of skill and experience to be good at. So today, I'll talk about how to write a script for a short film that is entertaining, engaging, and also keeps your budget within limit. This would be more of a how I approach writing the scripts for my short films and may not be suitable for you or for the kind of stories you want to tell. But nonetheless, you can still get something out of it. So let's talk about script writing. You have to approach script writing from 2 different angles. The first one is to address the first aspect of your actual question. That is, how do you keep your budget within limit? You have to construct your stories in such a way that it would be practically possible to shoot those scenes within your budget and with the limited resources you have. And moreover, you should also, it's very important that you always be true to yourself about what you know, what's your skill level, and what you can actually achieve. You shouldn't include something in your script which would require something way beyond the skill and expertise you already have to properly execute that idea. Rather, it would be better if you can come up with an alternative to convey the same idea in a much more efficient way. Usually, these scenes become way more effective as it requires you to use your imagination and creativity a lot harder. Remember, a subtle idea executed properly will always have a greater effect on the audience instead of a great idea executed poorly. So consider this constraint as an opportunity to be creative rather than a limitation. So how do you actually do that? I would start with giving you some tips on story formation. A good story will never fail to invoke curiosity at the core of it and reward a sense of satisfaction at the end of it. That's how I approach storytelling. I try to grab my audience's attention as early as possible by invoking curiosity. In my film Unbelievable, the first scene opens up with a direct question addressed to the audience, and that is also designed as a question to a certain answer. Check out the scene.
So you want to listen?
In today's world, where people have an average attention span of 8 seconds, you better not waste any time in grabbing that. I think any story, no matter how simple it is, can be made into a good film if told well. Similarly, a great story can be a complete disaster if told horrendously. So I think the more important thing than the story itself is the storytelling. We love Chirstopher Nolan's movies so much because of his storytelling techniques. He relies heavily on the unusual, unpredictable, non-linear storytelling techniques instead of following a much more conventional 3-act story structure. He is doing this from his first feature film Following, or even his short film Doodlebug. This non-linear storytelling technique makes even the simple stories much more entertaining to watch. If you don't have the budget and the resources to make your film visually appealing, then make it appeal this way. And once your audience is in the story, all they want is a satisfactory ending. So make sure to give them one. This is the most important of all, because people come out with the feeling you gave at the climax of your film, and usually that stays with them forever. So if you even manage to get them through the whole film but fail to deliver a satisfactory climax, then all your hard work will go in vain. Conversely, if you give them a remarkable climax, it will stand out. That doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to give your stories a happy ending. It's not like that. But you have to give a satisfying one. All the conflicts and the other extraordinary things happening through your entire film should lead up to a massive and meaningful conclusion organically. If you can do that effortlessly, then it gives you immense credibility. So focus on the climax of your stories the most. And this is true for the entire process of filmmaking. You have to write, shoot, and edit your climaxes to the best of your ability. In any story, the characters are the ones people actually care about. Well-defined characters are not only memorable, they somehow manage to get the audience's empathy, which is the most beautiful thing about stories, to move the audience in some way or the other. Your audience need to understand your characters and their ideologies to get inside their headspace, to understand their perspectives, in spite of the fact if they agree with their points of view or not. If you're just starting out with scriptwriting, then my advice would be not to create a lot of forgettable and less impactful characters that will not only require more people to play the roles, but also may dilute your main story. Rather, work with 1 or 2 main characters and revolve most of the story around them. You may need some strong supporting characters here and there, but give them as little screen presence as possible to avoid hiring a lot of professional actors. Those roles can be played by your willing friends and family members to keep the production budget under control. Sometimes, if you are unable to find a person to play a character who exactly looks like the one in your imagination, you can cheat by using only voice in the form of narrations, telephone conversations, and by not showing the actual characters at all. The making of any creative art starts in your head, in your imagination. In case of filmmaking, if you don't have the luxury of spending a lot of money, you need to learn to control your imagination from going wild. By that, what I mean is, while selecting or writing your story, keeping the budget limitations in mind, you can apply some tricks while spreading the events of your stories strategically. Try to incorporate all the locations that you already have access to in your story and write the story around all those locations. Try to avoid writing a story with scopes beyond your reach, and the scopes beyond your reach can be different for different people. For example, if you live in a picturesque place, then you already have access to that location and you can use that to your advantage. But if you are from an say an urban area, and want to tell a story about beautiful mountains and hills and waterfalls and rainbows, then that will be difficult for you and can increase your production budget exponentially. Rather, what I would suggest is to tell the stories of your neighborhood or stage your entire story only in indoor locations. You can use your own house and different rooms as different locations. At first, I would suggest you not to use all the rooms of your house in your first film only. Then you lose the opportunity of using a new location for your next short film. Don't throw everything at once. When you have limitations, showing less is more. Always keep something new and fresh at your disposal. That will also keep your audience engaged. Try making as much short films or even scenes or sketches in your house, and when you get comfortable and feel confident, only then extend your potential and try new and challenging scenes to execute. That will give you an opportunity to practice, and you will also gain an overall idea about all the processes of making a short film from start to finish. Otherwise, if you take a very challenging script as your first one, and by any chance if you fall flat on your face, then that can be very discouraging or even depressing for you, and it will be much harder to overcome the failures. So act smartly. If you are planning to own a website or start an online business, then you will need a reliable hosting service to host all your domains. To host all my websites, I use HostGator, and I haven't faced any issues till now. So I can recommend you to consider their service while looking for a hosting plan. And they have also been kind enough to hook me up with a coupon code to share with my viewers and subscribers. So if you buy from my link and use my coupon code, you will get a hefty discount. Please check out the video description below for all the updated information. Now, actors are the most important part of your film. They portray your imagination on screen. Good actors convey the exact emotions that you have intended and can make your film look very professional even if you fall short in some other aspects. While in the other case, bad actors will completely ruin, or worse, can entirely change the meaning of a scene or even the whole film altogether. You may not even know where did it all go wrong and why people didn't like your film and didn't feel the same excitement as yours at the time of making the short film. You believed in the script, that's why you decided to tell the story, right? But the end product is not something what you had expected. It's probably because there is a high chance that your casting choice was all wrong. At practice level, casting your friends and family members are okay, but if you are serious about filmmaking, spend your money on good and professional actors. Trust me, they can make or break your film. So if you have very little to spend on your film, then I'll recommend you to spend that amount on hiring a good actor. And of course, making a good short film doesn't depend only on your actors. You as a director should also be very confident and clear about what you want to convey and achieve, and also be able to communicate well with the actors to make them fully understand and conceive your ideas, and also guide them getting under the skin of your characters. So work on your directing skills as well. I'll make separate videos on my directing approaches in the future, so keep an eye on my channel. In short filmmaking, you don't need a lot of money to start, and just because you are starting out, you don't necessarily have to make an average one. Play with story structures, your characters and their intentions. Don't make them perfect, don't make them super flawed, just find a balance that the audience can connect to. Work together with your actors and other collaborators to bring them on the same page as you are. Keep an open mind for new ideas, but at the same time, don't forget your individuality. Make good use of the free knowledge floating all over the internet. Use the high resolution camera you already have in your pocket, and most importantly, on top of each and everything, sprinkle your creativity. So that's all for today. I'll see you in the next video.